whole back room.
Somehow my left earbuds just started working. Remember I was saying it? Like it
Nice.
just started working. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom had to come in and tell the guy that I was allowed to work around the pornography. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Monday, March 11th. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman, and we are brought to you by BetMGM. 6-game slate ahead of us, which I feel like that's what we've had every day for a week now, and I'm not super mad about it. Should be pretty fun. We've gotten a lot of news since this morning. Lots to break down. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow us both on Twitter. What's going on, man? How are you? How was your weekend?
It was good. Pretty uneventful as always these days, which is a good thing. I'm with you on the 6-game slates. Every time I write my article daily, and it's like back with another 6-game slate. No complaints though, because it's either that or like the 11-game, 3-game, 12-game, 2-game, which I hate.
Yeah, I'm very happy with this size slate. Like it's the low end of perfect. I'll take 6, 7, 8 at any time. That's like the perfect size for me.
100% with you.
Didn't expect as much Boston, or I didn't expect the Boston news to go the way that it did. Based on where the line was, I actually thought we were going to get Tatum out, but then we saw the line move 4 points from what it was at this morning. So that explained a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at least we got that news though. I mean, the last game on the slate could have been a real big headache.
I was hoping for it just because like it was so siloed that I was like, all right, well, I want chaos because that's the only thing that's gonna like that'll provide 100% the biggest edge if guys end up out in that game. That would be, I think, a pretty big benefit. That was one of the few times I actually wanted that to happen and like was ready to plan for it. And so obviously it didn't happen then.
Well, it is easier to talk about now, at least.
It definitely is. Speaking of talking about it, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's get into this slate, folks. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. We won't talk about Boston just yet. That's going to come in a few minutes. But first, we will talk about a much better game. The Charlotte Hornets, 4.5-point underdogs in Detroit, 217 total. I cannot imagine who is attending this one today on a Monday, no less. But here we are. We're talking about it. For the Hornets, lots of injuries right now. Obviously, no LaMelo, still no Seth Curry, no Cody Martin, no Bryce McGowens, obviously no Mark Williams. Doubtful tag on Trey Mann. It's pretty bleak for Charlotte right now, and yet they're in a really nice spot in a matchup against a Pistons team that is as equally as bad as they are. However, their salaries are pretty stable. We're seeing double-digit ownership coming into Micic. He's at 24%. And then single digits to everybody else. What do you like from Charlotte?
I think you kind of said it best. Charlotte is in a really good spot against Detroit, but their prices are finally stabilized. So there are no like standouts. Like Micic looks good still. Ownership's there, but I have no problem with it. Still under 6K, so that's fine. Bridges, their best guy, the guy you'd want to get to, is close to 9K now. So he's just like a contrarian spend up option that I don't mind getting to, but certainly not a building block. Easier to get to those guys now that we got a bunch of Boston value and Toronto value earlier in the day. But still, I don't think he's like the top priority in that. Like he's not the top spend up to be different guy in my mind, at least, but he is in that group. So nothing from Charlotte like looks great. I think Richards looks like a fine, contrarian mid-tier option at 5,700. It is a good spot against Detroit. So I wouldn't quibble with any Charlotte I got, but no one looks like I need him.
That's pretty much where I'm at. Like, I think that Micic is clearly the best option. He's 18% optimal, 24% owned. Like, that's the highest marks of anybody here. I got to 15%. I like him. I don't love him. Seems like the ownership's a little high, but definitely need to get to him. After that, I'm under on everybody. Miller, Bertans, Grant Williams, Miles Bridges, Nick Richards. I have a couple shares of all of those guys, but none of them are immediately jumping off the page for me. And I juiced up my Miles Bridges projection quite a bit since this morning. So much so that, I had his under on Prize Picks. Now I would probably leave that one alone. He's still not showing up in my lineup. So it really is just mostly Micic and nothing else, which scares me a little bit in a matchup against the Pistons. But like Brandon Miller's already 7,200. He's still not scoring a fantasy point per minute. Miles Bridges is 8,700. I know he's going to play a ton of minutes, but still kind of scary. Or you need him to get up. I mean, you're hoping for 50 plus. Like that's a big number for Miles Bridges.
5K Bertans. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. He's playing well, but like, he's going to need to do it for a little bit longer for me to want to get there. Not saying that he's like out of play, but he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's at like the tippy top of his price point.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, because there's no minutes upside any longer. Like he's at the ceiling of playing time. His talent isn't really changing. Like this is about as high as it's going to get. Like if this matchup was against the Bulls or something, we wouldn't be really talking about anybody from Charlotte because the pace would be so much slower. But in this case, or like Cleveland, but in this case, Detroit's bad enough that it unlocks it a little bit.
And there's, some spots on this slate have been priced up, but some others haven't. So there's just better spots to go to in my mind.
Yeah. Slightly different situation on FanDuel where Grant Williams is 40% owned as a 5K power forward. Micic is also 24% owned there, but Bridges is 20, Brandon Miller's 20, Nick Richards is 10. A lot more love coming into Charlotte. Not that that's all that surprising. They have different positional requirements. They have an extra roster spot. Like I'm not surprised to see numbers be higher, but 41% to Grant Williams feels healthy. I do think he's the best option on FanDuel, but oh boy, that's a big number.
Yeah, he's probably the only guy on either side I'd be like worried about the ownership and actively maybe not wanting to get there because of that. He looks fine based on what you said, though. He's cheaper on FanDuel and the positionality is just different. So I don't hate it, but I do think like, I don't know. I think Javon Freeman Liberty and Karis LeVert, the two guys getting by far the most ownership on FanDuel, makes sense.
Yeah.
Grady Dick probably makes sense too. I don't know if I'd have Grant Williams as like the fourth guy, but I get it.
Yeah, I'm not shocked about that one at all. Especially, I think when you see those sorts of numbers on FanDuel on a guy where you're like, it's usually just a situation where that position doesn't look like you think it does. And no matter what, you have to have two power forwards. It's not like, oh, that power forward can become a small forward. It's not a generic forward spot. So when you start having to force in individual power forwards, that pool can get really thin really fast.
Yeah, and you just look at the guys and it just isn't deep. And a lot of the guys that you'd want to get to are either correctly priced or overpriced.
Yeah, and that'll do it right there. I don't have much else to say for the Charlotte side. The Detroit side seems to be much more interesting.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that was going to be me, Jordan. I was pretty sure I didn't do anything.
It was me and I just changed it, but I had changed it before, so my bad.
I thought I would have bet pretty sizable amount of money that was me. DD in chat. Jordan, you might be able to help here. He said, accidentally just swallowed a Zyn pouch. Anybody have any experience with that?
You'll be fine.
I imagine you're fine. Yeah,
you'll be fine from personal experience.
I mean, you can eat a cigarette, right? It's just not good.
I would not feel good after eating a cigarette, but yeah, you could.
I would imagine I ate one in my life. That sounds like something I would have done really stupidly at 18, all wrecked on plastic jug vodka.
I feel like at some point during pledging, I probably ate a cigarette, not even knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But, like moving forward, though, DD, don't do that. Don't do that. Detroit Pistons. If anything's going to make you want to toss that Zyn up, it'll be talking about the Pistons here. 30% ownership coming into Jalen Duren, 15 coming into Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and around 10 for Asar Thompson and Beef Stew. I'm getting to a bunch of these guys. All 5 guys that I just mentioned are north of 10% optimal. 4 of them are 16% or higher. You get Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, both to 20%. Start it wherever you want. Who looks the best to you for the Pistons? Great matchup.
A bunch of these guys look good. I'm going to start it with Isaiah Stewart. And my sound should be better on playback now if anyone wants to confirm that. So, yeah, Isaiah Stewart looks really good here. 3rd overall as far as leverage goes on the slate. 20% chance of being optimal. Only 14% ownership. Like, yeah, like plays like that all day. Big men against Charlotte has been a thing since the Stone Age. So he looks really good at 5,100. Talking about the other big men, Jalen Duren. I think where is he? He's probably correctly owned. That's why I'm not seeing him pop
He
up.
he looks really good. 21% optimal, 30% owned. So like a little over owned, but at the same time, the highest optimal rate on the Pistons.
Yeah, he looks really good. Asar Thompson looks good.
Yeah.
Marcus Sasser looks good for cheap. I think Detroit gets the benefit of the matchup that Charlotte does. Both sides are in a really good spot, but Detroit is much cheaper. Jaden Ivey looks good. Cade Cunningham is a little bit expensive, but he looks good. The other thing about them, not only do they look good, they're coming in under-owned, quite a bit of them. So I like Detroit a lot here.
Everyone with Jalen Duren with positive leverage right now in our boom bust tool. And that's sort of how it's coming out for me. I'm basically neutral to Duren. I got 25%. Feels great. I'm 2xing Asar Thompson. I have 19%. Really feel good about that. 5,600 small forward, power forward eligible. I'm getting a lot of beef stew, though. I'm tripling Isaiah Stewart. I have 31%. He's 10% owned. He has the highest positive leverage of anybody on the site. So it makes me feel a little bit better. But 5,100, he's playing big minutes. His per minute stats are shockingly poor. I would not expect it to be 0.73 DraftKings points per minute like it is right now, but I have him projected a little bit better than that. And then I'm basically spot on the number for Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. In a matchup against the Hornets, you just generally feel pretty good about it. And I'm assuming they're like my third most owned team if I look. Let's see. They are my third most owned team. Yeah, nailed that one on the nose. That was a good guess, Josh. I'm proud of myself there. Do you like anybody else here, though? It looks like we're going to get Quentin Grimes back. Do you have any interest in like a James Wiseman off the bench type play? Seems like we have enough value now that we don't have to go like dumpster diving.
Yeah, I liked Marcus Sasser earlier, but Grimes being back probably kills that just because of everything we have on this slate. But
yeah, Toronto not helping either now.
Yeah, no, not even a little bit. So yeah, I think a bunch of Detroit looks good, but I don't think we really need to go to like the tertiary options.
No. Any interest in Fontecchio? He would be the only other guy that like we haven't talked about that is going to get real minutes for the Pistons.
I'm fine with it, but he's a little bit more expensive than he's been. And didn't he get extra run because of Asar Thompson injury, or am I completely off on that?
He got sick, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But I think Grimes being back, I don't want to say that like directly impacts Fontecchio, but it definitely brings back a guy that's in the rotation and doesn't really thin anything out for them. I mean, Fontecchio's been playing like 28 minutes a night, but now if everybody's back, I think that's probably a little bit more likely to be like 26. He does not grade out well in our boom bust tool. That much I could tell you. Marcus Sasser, Simone Fontecchio, 1.2% optimal, 0.8% ownership. Not good. Not good numbers on Fontecchio. So seems like we got to ignore him for today.
Yeah, he's just priced up a little bit and guys are in. So, meh.
Yeah. I don't have anything else here. It's the Detroit side that looks way better. And get ready, guys. That's the theme for the first three home teams that we're going to talk about, because it's kind of comparable for Cleveland and for Chicago. Schedule for the rest of the day. Very simple, folks. And before you even listen to what I tell you for the schedule, you should hit the like button. It helps a ton. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. They will take you all the way up until 7 p.m. You guys know how that works. At 7 p.m., this stream ends, and we're heading on over to Playback exclusively. We're already on Playback right now, if that's where you want to watch it. But we will be exclusively on Playback at 7 p.m. Come watch the games with us. If you have League Pass, you could watch along with us with no latency. We're all watching the exact same stream. If you don't have it, cross your fingers, be nice in chat. You might be able to get a VIP pass, hang out with us, and watch the games. We're going to talk news that pops up from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We might do a giveaway on the first basket of Hornets Pistons. That might take a full quarter to pay out, but we'll see it if these idiots can't score. But ultimately, we're going to hang out, talk bets, talk DFS, talk random stuff. It's a great hang. You should come check it out. Playback.tv/stochastic. I would imagine you will also see that link in chat at some point. Phoenix Suns are taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Suns are 6.5-point favorites, 220 total. For everything that we just said about Detroit, Phoenix appears to be the opposite. They do not have anybody getting any ownership. Devin Booker is probable. He has missed the past 4 games with a sprained ankle. Eric Gordon is now back out again. No Josh Okogie. Highest owned guy on the DraftKings side for the Suns. 1.9% ownership coming in to Yusuf Nurkic. Highest optimal rate, 4.2% to Devin Booker. I do not currently have a single share of a Phoenix Sun. You want to get to anybody here?
No, it's a deep contrarian team at best. Couple combination of factors here. One, Booker's back, and he's missed a couple games, so their prices have increased just a tad, and they're in a bad spot. So there's a lot of value on this slate. So like getting to a Devin Booker is not the hardest thing in the world, but you've also got good spend up options in Luka, Jokic, Tatum. So really hard to prioritize anyone on Phoenix here. And then their second, third tier options just aren't really viable to me in a spot like this personally. How about you?
I just don't see it. I didn't think it'd be this bad just because of the slate size, but it is. Like, these guys are at prices that don't seem to be all that interesting.
That's a good point though. Like, I feel like we are seeing, as you know, projections and sims and stuff has gotten a lot better. Even on these small slates, ownership gets so concentrated. So like it does bring the game theory aspect involved. But you know, it's still like from a projection level, these guys just don't look nearly as good.
No, they don't. And it's, look, like you need 50 something fantasy points out of Devin Booker to feel real good about it. There's no reason that can't happen, but that's also a pretty big number in this spot against Cleveland, the 26th
I feel like at
ranked
least
team
50
in pace.
also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, that says nothing for what we end up getting out of Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Wemby, Jason Tatum against Portland. Like the Boston side, Boston's got, you know, a much better matchup than Portland does, or than Phoenix does today. You've got Jason Tatum sitting there only having to break down the Blazers defense in comparison to Booker against Cleveland. Like it's so much better on paper.
This is such an arbitrary number. Like you said 50, but I look at this slate and I'm like, I feel like you need 60 from Booker here just because of Luka, what he's doing nightly, Jokic, Tatum now. Like that's the big one because he's in Booker's price tier. He's got such a good spot with guys out.
Yeah. Like I got it set at 52, and that's 52 is like the lowest number I would accept to be happy. We're talking 55, 56, 57 for you to be like, all right, this is going to work for me if I do it. It's a big number.
And he projects for 40. Like he doesn't project well at all for 9K, and his upside at 9K, like he has it. It's Devin Booker. We've seen him drop 60 real points, but it's just such a tough spot to want to get to him.
Not to mention, it's his first day back after 4 games out with a sprained ankle.
Right. So like, I'm sure he's not going to be like on a minutes limit, but I'm sure they're not going to play him 48.
No, not at all. The Cleveland side of this game looks so much better. And that's going to be 40% ownership coming into Karis LeVert, another close to 20 on Isaac Okoro, and around 10 for Darius Garland, George Niang, and Jared Allen. That's happening because we have no Donovan Mitchell, we have no Max Strus, we have no Evan Mobley, and now once again, no Dean Wade out for personal reasons. Let's start with LeVert, who's clearly pulling the most ownership, has the highest optimal rate, certainly negatively leveraged, but at the same time, with who's out, playing time available, his rates personally, very, very happy to get to Karis LeVert.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this a lot. There's so many ways to get different in your lineup. I can't remember the last time like the very best plays on the slate weren't a little bit overowned. That's just the nature of the beast in the NBA. You play those guys. Like, will they bust sometimes? Yeah, because it's sports and they're humans, but it just goes back to the projections. LeVert, even at this increased price tag, you know, he is like expensive-y now. So like 6,700 is, you're not getting him for free, but he projects for 37 fantasy points at 6,700. You know, I'd want to play him at 7K or below, and he's 300 less than that. So I still think he's a really good play. Ownership's a little too high, but don't particularly care.
Same. Like, am I getting him? Yeah. Am I a little bit under that number? also, yeah, I have 26% of LeVert. Wouldn't be surprised if I bump that another minute. It's just going to be something I dig into because I only went to 34. We have 36 on the site. So I'm going to look into that when the show ends. But I'm obviously still getting there. He's clearly the best option you can get to from Cleveland. I'm just surprised I don't have as much Darius Garland as I normally do. Only neutral to the field. So I assume today's the day that he's going to make every single shot he takes.
Yeah, probably. He's just in a more awkward pricing tier. His price has risen to 8K. He's been good, but he hasn't been like amazing with Mitchell out. So like he looks a lot better than a guy like Devin Booker because they project similarly and he's $1,000 cheaper. But even he doesn't project amazing. And
No.
I think LeVert just looks a lot better. Point guard position is pretty loaded. So I think Garland is a tournament play, but certainly not a must play like maybe you thought he would be in this spot a couple weeks ago.
What do you want to do with Isaac Okoro, who is very much not a fun guy to roster, but should soak up a ton of playing time with these guys out?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. He's actually coming in a little bit under-owned, even at that 17% ownership, 20% chance of being optimal. No matter what I think of him, he's got a 20% chance of being optimal today. I mean, he's like 6th overall, 7th overall on the slate as far as optimal percentage goes. So I think he's a solid play, knowing that he sucks.
I got 9%. I thought I was going to end up with a ton of him. 19% optimal right now, 17% owned. We're actually showing a little bit of positive leverage on Okoro, but he's also live to play big, big minutes. I might be light on his minutes as well, but when I started bumping them up, I got to 33 and I was already at his points prop. If I would have went to the 35 that I think he's going to play, I would have been in some real trouble. So he's going to be a tricky one for me. But I'm getting a little bit of him, a little bit of Niang, a little bit of Garland. Guy I'm lightest on is Jared Allen, but that $8,600 price tag is up quite a bit. And the matchup against Nurkic on the other side is not going to be ideal for Allen in that, like, that's another guy that is going to be heavily out there on the boards.
Yeah, exactly. Like Nurkic is big too. So
yeah,
you're paying premium price for Allen. He just smashed in a game against the Wolves, OT game. So it's not like it's not within the realm that he has a good game here. But I'm with you. Like, I don't really want to pay close to 9K for him in this spot.
He's going to play big minutes, that's for sure. If he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to get 36 or more. But there's a lot of centers today.
And when we talk about those guys, we have to put it in the context of like, if you roster 2 Jared Allens, you can't get to Luka or Jokic, you know?
Yeah. He's been good lately, 1.15 DraftKings points per minute. I have him at 1.23 for this matchup because it's a little bit better and his rates improve with no Mobley around and no Mitchell around and those guys being out. But I think it's very clearly Caris LeVert at the top of the list. And then, Isaac Okoro pretty clearly second. I think you can kind of choose whoever you want after that if you've got a stand, whether that's Garland, Niang, Allen, any of those guys are totally fine to me.
Yeah, I think it's LeVert easy number 1, and then you could honestly make a case for Okoro being number 2.
Yeah. I wish I'd get more Garland. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that happens because I want to be there when he goes absolutely insane. Anything else for your Cavs?
No.
Dallas Mavericks, 4-point favorites in Chicago, 232 total. Dallas is pretty normal. Everybody that's normally around is around today. They didn't move their starting lineup around the end of last week. 19% ownership coming into Luka. Just 3 to Kyrie Irving. Nobody else is really getting any other love. We do have PJ Washington's optimal rate coming in sizable enough. Pretty good positive leverage. But this seems to be the Luka Doncic show with nothing else. Where do you land on Luka? How do you see him in relationship to the other pay-up options today?
I keep seeing someone tweet, I think it's the Czech, but I can't remember exactly who, that's like, Luka is underpriced every day on DraftKings. Like, it's the easiest play in the world. And he's not wrong. I mean, you look at what Luka's doing lately, DraftKings just won't really price him higher. He's number 1 in the boom bust tool. He's only projected to be around 20% owned. He looks amazing here. We have enough value where it's easy to get to him. Big blowout concerns in Denver, although with Jokic, like, this is easily a spot he could triple-double in the first half. So I like both of them a lot. But yeah, Luka looks amazing to me. He's just playing at an insane level right now, and Dallas needs wins. So he's going to play big minutes, and he's producing at an extremely high rate.
I thought I'd get more. I've got the stand on Jokic, not on Luka today, which scares me just given what he's been doing as of late. Only saving grace for me, Chicago's 25th in pace. They're not the worst defense in the world. I'm hoping the pace just kind of takes the teeth out of Luka. I mean, you need 70. Like it's got to happen. That's a big day, no matter who you are. But 1.9 DraftKings points per minute over the past month for this dude. He's on another level right now. He's just dropping triple-double after triple-double. Not that I give a shit about a triple-double, but when he does it, it feels different. I want to get more. But at 19% owned, I think I'm just going to come in a little bit lighter. Like, I have 39% of Jokic right now. I'm taking an actual stand. I'm cool with it. Would I care if that was basically just splitting the difference between the two? No, not really. They both look really good. And they both carry very clearly the most sizable projections on today's slate, and it's not really that close. But right now, I'm getting to more Jokic over Doncic. I don't say that as a criticism to Luka Doncic. I'm not getting to anything else from Dallas, though.
I think it's probably a little bit easier to get to Jokic today just because of the $800 difference. Luka's got the slightly better position, being that you can roster him at 3 spots, but it's not overwhelming there. So I get that. I think they look really similar, and we've seen this a bunch lately when they're both on the slate.
Yeah. We also have the highest owned guy on the slate right now being Freeman Liberty, who's point guard, shooting guard, which is at least overlapping with Luka a little bit in terms of positionality. He frees up Jokic way easier than he frees up Luka just because of positions.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's probably playing at least a little bit of a role. If he was a center, then I wouldn't be surprised at all to be seeing a lot more Luka and a lot less Jokic just because of the way that rosters would get built. But yeah,
and if he were a point guard only, I think you'd see, Jokic like not much higher owned, but sure. You get it.
You have any interest in Kyrie or PJ Washington?
Not really. It's the Luka show, and it's not a good spot. So I think your chinks in the armor of Luka are well noted. And like, if there was a spot for him to not nut, it's tonight. And you're right, you need 70 plus from him here. So yeah, no interest really for me in like the other Dallas guys. How about yourself?
1 share of Gafford, 1 share of Kyrie, 1 share of PJ Washington.
Yeah. So, I mean, that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. It is very different on the Chicago side. Call it 10 to 15% ownership on Alex Caruso, Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. Torrey Craig is probable. Everybody else that's been out is out. Do you have a guy from the Bulls that jumps out to you? Because I'm getting one of them a little bit more than the others, but I have all 4 of the guys that I mentioned in double digits of exposure.
Well, I know it's not Vucevic because center spot. Well, I don't think it's Vucevic. Could be DeRozan. I know you're not getting to Garland. Kobe White?
It is DeMar DeRozan. He's in 33% of my stuff right now. 8,200, small forward, power forward. You're getting this crappy Dallas defense, pace up spot. He's playing 39, 40 minutes a night. And we haven't really talked about small forward and power forward value in the same way. So I think that's just sort of funneling me in that direction. But I'm still over the field on Kobe White, dead neutral on Caruso, right at the field on Vooch. These guys look good because this is a really nice matchup.
Yeah, they do look good. There isn't one of them that stands out to me. I think they all look really good, and I think getting some Chicago exposure makes sense. Vooch looks really good according to our tools. The highest player in the boom bust tool with positive leverage. Price is up a little bit, but he projects really well. So yeah, I could see getting to Vooch. I could see getting to Kobe White. I could see getting to DeRozan. Chicago looks good here, as you mentioned.
They play like they're just really having no problem at all dialing in their minutes to the guys that play the most. Like these guys, they're just running these dudes out there. The Drummond alongside Vooch experience seems to be over. And we're just getting, 38, 39, 40 minutes out of the 3 main guys. And for Alex Caruso, he's like, this is the perfect matchup for Caruso. Sorry, someone just showed up and rang my doorbell. Dog's losing his mind. Like, if you're ever going to play Alex Caruso more minutes, the backcourt of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving seems like the spot to do that.
100%. Yeah, much better spot for Chicago than Dallas. So it's definitely worth mentioning, if nothing else.
How do you feel about Dosunmu? Because he's sitting there at 6,300. Is he just too expensive now? He's the only one that like is losing out to everybody else. 5% optimal, 5% owned. Or is he sneaky?
I could see both sides of it. To me, he's a little bit too expensive. Like, I think you need a pretty big score from him at that price point with basically everyone in. So he doesn't stand out to me at all. But yeah, he is like the one guy that's not getting serious ownership. That said, like, none of these guys are over 20% owned. So I'm not worried about that ownership in the least.
Same. And I don't think you could roster anybody else from Chicago. Like they have 5 dudes and that's it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. I got nothing left here for Chicago, which means it is the perfect opportunity to talk about Bet MGM. At least that's the way that I see it. Bet $5. Get 150 when you place that first bet. You get it in 3 separate $50 bonus bets. You really can't ask for a better situation because the worst case scenario, if you sign up using this link, is you're going to bet that $5. You can bet those 3 $50 bonus bets. The worst case scenario for you is you lose all 4 of those bets and you're out $5 of your own money. The best case scenario, you pick up 1 or 2 of those bonus bets and you're now starting off your bankroll with an extra $100, an extra $200. You're in a much better situation. And it's not just a regular bonus, because if you want to take those $50 bonus bets and take some chances, you could really run up a decent bankroll if you wanted to. Now, couple keys here. Minimum deposit is $10, but you only have to do 5 for this deal. You got to be 21 or over. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. My recommendation, sign up using that link. Take a peek at Odds Shopper. It's going to help you get some positive value plays. It will also help you work through that bonus in a more efficient manner. And then see where you're at from there. Figure out the sportsbook you like the most. Figure out what fits you, because you want to be able to shop around a little bit. You don't want to leave yourself not being able to get the best line. But sign up at BetMGM and take advantage of this deal. It's not going to last forever, folks. The Golden State Warriors are 5-point favorites in San Antonio, 227 total. This is a very interesting spot. When I started working through this one today, I was like, oh, wow, Steph Curry's out. I bet there's like some pretty significant value for Golden State today. Draymond Green's probable. Moses Moody's probable. I was like, somebody's going to stand out. And it was just nothing anywhere. Single-digit ownership to every single regular player, except for Trace Jackson Davis, who moved into the starting lineup recently. $4,400, currently projected for 39% ownership. However, very sizable negative leverage, 18.5% optimal, still the highest optimal guy on the Warriors. What are you doing with Trace Jackson Davis today?
I think he looks really, really good here. Still too cheap for this role. Good spot against San Antonio. Interested to see how and if they change their minutes around from the last game with Wemby in, but he's given them production. So I think he looks like arguably the second best play on the slate behind Freeman Liberty, a little ahead of Karis LeVert in my mind, just because he's so cheap. He does use up a center spot, but fine with it. I mean, you can play 2 of them on DraftKings, so easy to play him with Jokic if that's your cup of tea. I like Trace Jackson Davis a lot. Other than that, really hard to get to Golden State. They've been priced up. I wrote about Draymond as a contrarian play today. I still feel that way, but 6,800, you're paying full price for him. No one stands out besides Trace Jackson Davis. He looks like one of the best plays on the slate, though.
So I'm agreed. I got 45% of them. Obviously running out a pretty regular combination of Nikola Jokic, Trace Jackson Davis. Don't mind it. I have a little bit of Kuminga. Now, he's the other guy that's getting any love. He's 11% optimal, 8.5% owned. I got to 9%. So he's a really sizable usage bump with no Steph around, up to 28% here. But after that, it's just like, how are these? No Steph Curry, and like it creates nothing. I would never expect that. You would just expect all of that usage and potential playing time to get redistributed to something that looks good. I think Andrew Wiggins is sneaky, but I don't think there's anything that we can do about it. Steph gone, no reason he can't just go back there and play the 30 minutes that he had been playing. He just happened to be out for a bit. If they give Andrew Wiggins 30 minutes, that's basically what he was averaging before he missed those 4 games. 30 minutes of Andrew Wiggins with no Steph at 5,300 is a little bit more appealing to me. I just don't know what we can do with that. I don't know if they want to do that. If he ends up starting, I'd be intrigued.
Same. Here's what I think you can do with that. I was looking at him when we talked about Grant Williams on FanDuel. He's like the same price. So like, I think it's actionable in a spot like that. But I think it's risky for sure. That's why he's not projected to get ownership.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. This is, I think, their second game without Curry, and they didn't look good last game either. I don't really get it.
Now, and they played basically a pretty firm 8-man rotation with like a bunch of other idiots working their way in. But yeah, like Wiggins got 26 minutes. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see that number be 30 today. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him get back into the starting lineup either. That will take him from uninteresting to at least a little bit interesting, because at 30 minutes, if he's like a 0.95 guy, that's 28.5 fantasy points. I mean, right now we have him projected for 23. It makes him the second best value on the Warriors if he were to happen to get the start. I don't expect it, but it's in the cards.
For sure.
Like I have nothing of any of these guys. No Chris Paul, no Wiggins, Podziemski, Clay, Moody, all of these guys. It's Kuminga and Trace Jackson Davis for me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't hate that at all. I think Kuminga would be my second favorite guy also, just because they need him. He's just, priced up a little bit, but a lot of guys on this slate are.
San Antonio Spurs are on the opposite side, pulling no ownership. 9% to Devin Vassell. Everybody else less than that. We get Wemby back for his first game after missing back-to-back. We also have $10,500 Victor Wembanyama not having power forward eligibility any longer. Makes him very difficult to get to on a slate that contains Nikola Jokic. The prices are going to be relatively close. Those extra couple minutes end up being very, very valuable. I don't really see how you get to San Antonio here, even though Wemby is very live to just destroy this Warriors team.
I love the leverage Wemby comes with here.
Yeah.
10% chance of being optimal, only 3.5% ownership. But I think that 10% optimal percentage speaks volumes when Jokic is 16%, Luka's 17%. It's a pretty big difference there. So yeah, it's not even the price, it's the position. So I'm with you here. Like, I don't mind spending 10.5 on Wemby at power forward, but on a slate with Jokic, they're just too close in price. I think Jokic is the better play. Would definitely be getting to some of Wemby if I were multi-entering, but in limited lineups, really, really tough to get there.
Yeah, I got 4%. It's really all that I could hope for. I would really prefer to have a lot more. 1.93 DraftKings points per minute over the past 30 days for Victor Wembanyama, but he's going to project for basically 5 minutes less than Jokic at a comparable per minute rate. It's really hard to run that down. There's not enough gap in salary. If he still had power forward eligibility, very different story. Then you can start working him in a much different way. But now that you're forced to just center, it becomes a limiting factor.
Yeah, it just really does.
I have 9% of Vassell. I do think that he looks like the easiest dude to want to get to from San Antonio. But ultimately, Golden State and San Antonio is like a very uneventful game. This would likely be the lowest owned game if it wasn't for Trace Jackson Davis being like an outlier for what we have.
Yeah, on the San Antonio side, prices have risen with Wemby being out for a couple of games. I will shout out Vassell, who continues to just play really, really good ball.
I love that dude.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a big time asset for them to be a part of a team with Wemby out there. So this season on dunks and threes in EPM, there are 32 guys in the league that have a positive EPM and a negative. I'll be a little bit more specific. Positive offensive EPM, a positive defensive EPM, and basically like play real minutes and are real players. Like they shoot, like they've got real usage. They're not just like random people. Devin Vassell is one of those guys. And this is a list sorted by wins this season. It's a pretty illustrious list. Shea, Giannis, LeBron, Durant, Edwards, Kawhi, Tatum, AD, Dame Lillard, which is such nonsense. It's insane, but let's just ignore that for right now. There's no chance that Damian Lillard is a positive defensive player. We'll just skip that. Joel Embiid, Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, Franz Wagner, Jaylen Brown. Like, these are the names that you expect to hear. Devin Vassell is like a sneaky good piece for the Spurs. I just don't think people realize it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good company to be in.
He's like the Spurs Desmond Bane.
Ooh, that's a good comp.
Like, ignoring play style and everything, just like this, like the third banana that really just fits and pieces everything together here. A modern day Chris Middleton, you might say, who will one day be better than Jimmy Butler.
Man, Bane or Vassell? Ooh, that's such a good one. I don't know.
Is Vassell younger than him? Because I know Bane's old.
Yeah, Bane stayed in college for a while. I would say Vassell is younger.
Vassell is 23 years, 6 months. Desmond Bane is 25 years, 8 months. So 2 years younger than Desmond Bane.
Huh?
Like
yeah,
it.
I'm a Vassell guy as well.
Love it. Oh, well. The Toronto Raptors are 16-point underdogs in Denver. 230 total. I can't think of a worse matchup for you to have than the defending champs at elevation when you're missing everybody with a pulse on your basketball team. So we're going to play those idiots today in abundance. 66% ownership coming into Javon Freeman Liberty. I do not know anything about him. I assume you know more than I do. 30% ownership to Grady Dick. 15 to Kelly Olynyk. 10 to Jonte Porter. 10 to RJ Barrett. On FanDuel, it's 60 to Liberty. 50 to Dick. 30 Kelly Olynyk. Another 20 to Bruce Brown. 10 to Akbaji. 10 to RJ Barrett. This is a wild spot. Is there any scenario where we can, like, how do we get away from Freeman Liberty here?
You don't. Just play him and figure out the rest. The shooting guard eligibility is really what does it for me. So cheap. We've got Luke on the slate. We've got Jokic. Tatum looks like Tatum even over Luke and Jokic looks like harder to get away from Tatum. So spend up options, pretty much every position. I just think you play him and move on. He's projected for 25 fantasy points at 3,500. So again, it's not a great spot. Obviously, he's probably not going to be in the NBA for a long time, but it doesn't matter for tonight.
How much Dick are you getting?
That is an interesting way to put it. I think he looks really, really good here. He's got one of the highest optimal percentages on the slate. Yeah, I mean, 4,600. He's projected to be 30% owned, 23.5 or 23% ownership. I think he looks really good. Quote unquote over owned by a little bit, but premium positions in shooting guard and small forward. So, these guys just aren't priced for what their role will be tonight. Not only is Barnes out, but quickly, opens up everything for them.
I'm assuming this isn't a situation where you're going to use the phrase nut in responding to how well you want him to project.
Probably not. Not with him.
That's fair. I got 90% of Freeman Liberty right now. I've got 40% of Grady Dick. Much easier to say that if you treat his entire name like a full name. And then I've just got scattered amounts of the rest of these guys. Like, do I want to play Jonte Porter today? No, I don't. However, he's flat 3K, and that's sort of a little bit of value that, I don't hate it. We have him 15% optimal, 10% owned. It's exactly where I'm standing. Someone like Jordan Wara is live to go out there and just heave some shots. We've got him 7% optimal, 7% owned. The guy that's sneaky here is RJ Barrett, because he's just kind of slipping through the cracks, but probably for the right reasons. What's he supposed to do in this situation? He's got a team full of guys that shouldn't be out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Jonte Porter would look so much better if he wasn't only center eligible. Weird dynamic with Bruce Brown returning to Denver, not playable for fantasy, but just that he signed with an Eastern Conference team. So already went back there with Indiana, but now goes back there again.
He probably wishes he was in the other locker room at this point.
I'm sure he does. Well, he's getting paid.
Yeah, he needs to like not get vaccinated so he can't go back to Toronto or something.
Man, I feel like Freeman Liberty is definitely like the type of guy that just could bust, for lack of a better word, but it is
What
what
about
it is.
Grady?
Yeah, and that's exactly
Can
where
he?
my mind went
Can
to.
he? Let
I
me know.
can't.
Let me
I
know.
couldn't.
What
I
are
couldn't
his
do
odds?
it. Hi.
Now I look at Freeman, like assuming he's starting, which I think basically like he has to. You know, we've seen him play 18, 18, and 18 minutes over the past 3. Now we're removing Gary Trent from the rotation. We're also removing Emmanuel Quickly from the rotation. It would blow my mind if he's not out there for 26 minutes. And if it's a blowout, he's probably playing the blowout run too. Like, it's not like there's somebody behind him that's younger and shittier, I would imagine. Like, they're out of bodies. So I
This is
think you just got to
definitely
get
a
there.
spot. This is definitely a spot where like I could see not wanting to play a lot of Toronto though, just because they could really struggle just to do anything offensively.
I think it's going to be it's going to be tough sledding. That's why I prefer the lower. I mean, like, I think Grady
Yes.
Dick is just stepping into a different role, and I'm interested there. The position, it's fantastic. But like for Freeman Liberty, I mean, he gets the 30 fantasy points. He might play 36 minutes today because they don't have any other choice, even in the shittiest matchup possible. It might be a war of attrition to get him there, but it doesn't really matter if he gets him in the first quarter or the fourth quarter. But like everybody else, I mean, Kelly Olynyk's sitting there at 15% owned. How do you feel about that? 6,900 power forward center, but like this is not a good spot.
It's not. I feel like I get it because he's going to have a huge role, much bigger than he's had for at least years, it seems like. The ownership is there for him. RJ Barrett is an interesting one because I think a lot of people are looking at this like we are, like very hesitant to spend up on the Toronto guys, thinking that this could just be a really bad spot for them. And that's how I'm looking at it. But it kind of reminds me of Jaren Jackson Jr., a bunch of these slates. Like, whole team is decimated. Now he's better than RJ Barrett, but if Toronto's competitive in this game, I would expect Barrett to probably play well. Now, what does that mean at 7,600? Not a lot as far as me playing him, but just wanted to call it out. I think Olynyk looks good, but you're not getting any sort of discount on him. So I don't know. I wanted to call out Barrett because of the just contrarian upside with him.
And like, we don't even really know what we're going to get out of. We got to remember, we still have a Q tag on Bruce Brown. Like, he might be out. That will change things up a bit. But if he's in, it doesn't seem like they're just going to play him enough to matter. Like, if this were a different situation, we'd probably be projecting Bruce Brown for like 33 minutes and he'd be a fantastic play. He's missed the past 4 games with right knee inflammation. He was really only playing, like, he would get to 30 in situations if somebody was out, but I don't think they're doing that in this spot.
Yeah, same. He projects awful, so I'm with you.
Yeah. Because if he starts, it becomes like a little bit more interesting of what you need to do with him. He's been so bad for Toronto, though. 0.6 DraftKings points per minute. And he is a guy that is going to connect things for good teams way more than thrive for whatever this thing is running out here against Denver.
100% with you there. Like, this is not a spot for Bruce Brown in general, tonight, this year, overall.
I have very little Kelly Olynyk. Big stands on Freeman Liberty. Big Dick stand as well. 41%. Not going to lie. Saying his name is funny as hell to me.
Yeah, especially when you think about, like, he's just like the white guy in the NBA. Like, I don't know. It's just funny.
I'm just such a child. He's lucky he's good at basketball, man. That would have been a real tough scene if he didn't have like that kind of skill set.
Oh, God, I can only imagine.
20% ownership to Nikola Jokic. 20% ownership to Jamal Murray. Just north of 10 to Aaron Gordon. I've already mentioned it. I've got 40 of Jokic. I also have 40 of Jamal Murray. Scares the hell out of me for this matchup because obviously Denver beating the hell out of Toronto seems incredibly likely. Doesn't have to be, though, but I am getting to those guys in abundance. Not really as much Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, Jokic looks amazing here. Big men just destroy Toronto. They're really small inside now. We're talking about some combination of Kelly O and Jonte Porter. Yeah, like the only concern is the blowout here, but even then, like if Denver blows out, they're their big players, their good players are probably playing well. And Jokic has shown like his ability to put up 60, 70 in 3 quarters. So I'm not playing these guys because of the blowout. I think that, when you're comparing them to like a Luka, you can, weigh that as part of the consideration. But I think that probably gets overstated, if anything. So yeah, I think it's worth bringing up, but Jokic looks elite here. I think you could say he's the best spend up on the slate, given, the pace Chicago plays and Luka, etc. So I love Jokic here. I like Jamal Murray a lot, especially in non-Jokic lineups, just because I have a hard time seeing Denver not be successful here. Maybe if it's not a Jokic game, it's more Jamal Murray. And in that case, the blowout, maybe you want Murray and not Jokic. But that's kind of just playing on that theory, not really something I'll put into action tonight.
For all the people, because I know there's going to be a lot of people in chat that are just like, can't play Denver, blowout. Why would I play Jokic? It's going to be a blowout. Hope you guys are betting today. Should be firing off all of his PRA bets and stuff if you're confident in none of this stuff happening. Got to remember to think about it like that, folks. You can put your money where your mouth is if you want to.
Yeah,
that's
so
available.
I'm thinking about it with how you put it. Like Denver is a 15.5-point favorite. Portland Boston's 11.5-point favorite. There really is no like other big favorite tonight, but I feel like between Toronto and Portland, one of them keeps it competitive at least.
Feels way more if Portland has everybody in, like if Grant's playing and they've got like the most amount of people they have in, Boston's way more likely to play down to their opponents with no Drew Holiday and no KP than I think Denver is to like play with their food at home against Toronto.
Yeah, I'm with that.
But yeah, if you can, guys, go bet this shit. But otherwise, I think you should just play Nikola Jokic. He's in a lot of my stuff. We have him negatively leveraged by a little bit. Similar situation for Murray, but both around 15% optimal. These are just the ways that I'm paying up today. I don't really want too much else from Denver. Like I got a couple shares of MPJ, a couple shares of Aaron Gordon, but to me it's, and like to our optimal rates too. I guess we like MPJ and Aaron Gordon a little bit more. They're the guys showing up with the positive leverage. Are they should we be getting to those guys as the GPP plays from Denver?
I don't mind it. They're cheaper than the other guys, which makes it a little appealing in like a blowout type scenario. You just don't need as much. That said, like these guys aren't going to be helped by any blowout either. So like the leverage is there for a guy like Gordon. Just a little bit of an awkward price for me on this particular slate.
Mike Verderosa hit us with the member message. Member for 34 months. That is like right from the jump. I love seeing it. So I want to hit on this one. Fantasy points per minute for Javon Freeman Liberty. Just the 0.84 he's at or something different. It seems to be the consensus is going to be right around that number. I have him in at 0.83. We have him in at 0.84, or at least we did the last I looked. Some other sources in the industry are up towards 0.9. I think just looking at the consensus mark, you're talking about somewhere in that 0.85 range. So yeah, no real changes. Really doesn't matter at all. Assuming he's starting, you can kind of project him for whatever, and he's going to look like, the best point per dollar play on the slate. But in that 0.85 range, that's what makes it a no doubt about it option. Thanks for that chat message. Thanks for being a member for that long, man. That's crazy shit, honestly. That's a very, very long time. One more thing to sell to you guys. I hate doing it, but I love doing it. Do you know why? Because you should get the stuff that I'm talking about. I only give you good deals. I'm never showing up here like we're charging 50% extra for everything that I'm talking about. Now, when this stuff comes up, I'm giving you guys the goods. Stochastic data, all access package, relatively new. Now, it's $199 per month. I know it sounds like a lot. That's every piece of advanced data we have for every single sport. That's projections, ownership. If it's got a boom bust tool, that's in. Top whatever tool. So in baseball, top stacks and top pitchers, access to our premium Discord, and base level Sims access. Now, if you don't use our avatar, it's $100 more than this. But all you have to do is go to stochastic.com/avatar. use that logo, you will save $100 per month by using the avatar and getting access to every single piece of data that we have on the back end, including our premium Discord. It's a great, great deal. You're getting in, you get to test out the Sims, find out if that's something you like more. You could then convert to a base Sims pack or a bigger Sims package if that's something you find that you're interested in. But this will cross you up for all the sports. We've got NBA right now. We've got NHL right now. PGA is running. MMA is running. NASCAR is running. Baseball is a couple weeks away. There's a lot of DFS coverage that we can offer to you guys right now at a pretty active time in the DFS calendar. So if you're looking for the data package specifically, $199 per month, $100 off if you're using our avatar. If you don't use the avatar, it's $299 a month. It's a big number, guys. Alrighty, let's close it out. Boston Celtics, 11.5-point favorites in Portland, 219 total. Now for Boston, we have no Kristaps Porzingis, and the injury news broke so that it is no Drew Holiday. We do have Jason Tatum, we do have Jaylen Brown, and we do have Derek White. Makes it a little bit less crazy, but we are pulling tons of ownership here. 50% to Sam Hauser, 35 to Jason Tatum, who's also in 43% of my lineups. We've got 20 to Derek White, 20 to Jaylen Brown, and around 10 for Al Horford and Peyton Pritchard. This team looks amazing.
Yeah, specifically Tatum for me. No Porzingis especially just opens up so much for him. We saw it last game. I love Tatum here. I think you could make the case that he's the best play on the slate at 9,500 with guys out in this matchup. I think he looks elite here. Hauser certainly looks good at 3,600, but I'm much more hesitant on guys like Hauser that are really reliant to make shots over guys like Freeman Liberty that are just going to have the ball in their hands. Now, Freeman Liberty is higher owned, but Hauser's really, really high owned. I'd be much more apt to get away from him. That said, he still opens up a ton. And if you want to play like Luka and Jokic together, you're playing Hauser with Freeman Liberty. So I get it. He looks like the second best value play, like cheap under 4K play on the slate. I just think it's a pretty big dip from Freeman Liberty to him. Do you see that the same?
I haven't really thought about it. The key point for this will be who starts. If Hauser starts, that looks so much different than if they start like Cornette or Tillman probably Cornette alongside of Horford. So it's that fifth starter spot that'll be up in the air. If he's starting, let's see where I have them both. I have Freeman Liberty relative to, well, I mean, I guess not even relative to salary because it's only $100. I have him by a point. So I have a little bit of a lean to Freeman Liberty. I'd say it's like 55-45.
Okay.
Something
because you also get the small forward with Hauser, but Stochastic has 3 points, which is quite a big difference.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, so we have 28 minutes and 21.5 fantasy points for Hauser. I have 28 minutes and 21.8. But for Freeman Liberty, I have 27 minutes and 22.5 fantasy points, whereas we have 29. I could very easily bump that in the next hour and make that gap separate even more. But at a minimum, I have it by a hair.
I think your original point of not really thinking about it, though, is probably the best answer because it doesn't really matter.
No, I got 60% plus of both of them. Yeah.
Right. They both look really, really good just in the context of this slate. If there weren't elite spend-up options, maybe my stance of not wanting to get the Hauser would be I could put it into play more. But on a slate like this, you just need that cheap value. So he looks good here. Love Tatum. Jaylen Brown under 8K looks good. You know, you can't roster everyone, so Tatum is a higher priority for me. But he's also too cheap in this spot now with great positionality. So, yeah, Boston looks like one of the best teams on the slate. Didn't even talk about Derek White, who also looks really good here.
Yeah, I'm over the field on Horford, just under on White, over on Brown, over on Tatum, neutral on Pritchard, neutral on Sam Hauser. You just have to get to a lot of Boston. This is a spot against Portland. Portland not very good. Also, Q tag on Jeremy Grant, Q tag on everybody on chat's favorite person, Ashton Higgins, and then a Q tag on Justin Minaya and Ibu Baji. None of those really matter. Jawari Walker is out, but Scoot is back. As we look at Portland, 12% ownership to Delano Banton, 6 to DeAndre Ayton, 2 to Anthony Simons. I like Ayton as a GPP play.
Me too. A lot. Way more than I should. It's not a good matchup, but there's no Porzingis. Boston's shorthanded, and he has smashed this price tag consistently when he's played recently, like 50s, numerous times, not getting any ownership.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, he's not consistent, and he's probably a letdown considering he was the number 1 overall pick in Luka's draft, but he's still very, very productive from a DFS standpoint. And I'm with you that I think Portland is much more likely to keep this game competitive than Toronto is, especially if guys are in. Now, if everyone's in, that might hurt Ayton, but Ayton's been so productive that you just don't really see guys like this that are, too cheap for their current production that aren't getting ownership. So I like Ayton in that realm too.
He's in 22% of my stuff. I think he's the perfect GPP play for tonight.
Yeah, same.
And that's like a very reasonable level. No Porzingis. It's, certainly a better spot for Ayton to not have Porzingis out there and have it be Xavier Tillman or Luke Cornett. Like, it's just a slightly better matchup. So he's the guy that I'm getting to. I have very little Banton. I have very little Simons. I just don't really want all that much from Portland. We have Banton 9% optimal. We have Ayton 9% optimal, but Banton slightly over-owned, Ayton slightly under-owned. Wouldn't mind having a little bit more Banton, but he's just a guy to me on this slate.
Yeah, priced up. They got guys back, so he's playing really good ball. I don't hate it, but he reminds me of someone else we talked about earlier that just is probably at the okay, I was thinking about Davis Bertans. I'd rather play Banton because we don't know who Banton is fully yet, but he's still at the top of his price tier for what we know of him.
Anything else you want to add, man? We're at the top of the hour.
No, fun slate though.
It is. It is. NBA live before lock. I don't know what word I just said. Coming up next, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Shout out to BetMGM for being the sponsor. We're going to get on out of here. Stream stays here. Hit the like button if you want to see it. We'll talk to you later.
Hey, it's that time of week again. Time to induct you fine people into the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Give away a bunch of Stochastic packages on top of that as well. And all you got to do to get involved, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet those wins to us at Stochastic HOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Let's see what we got on tap this week. Cheesy T with a $17,000 win. Shout out to Eric Lindquist for his nuke of the night. Second place will have to do. Couldn't have done it without the tools and videos by Stochastic. I rep the OG logo. Hope you don't mind. And then Jacob Hiller. Gotta be careful with that one. The last few days have been good to me. Big shout out to Stochastic and staff for providing absolute best tool on the market, period. Up 90 grand and some change in the last 7 days. Simple to quickly and efficiently adjust to however you like to approach a GPP. Nice work, Jacob. 90 grand in a week. Tyler Mattis, thought we had first locked up, but Henley let me down. Still a great week. Shout out to Stochastic and Greg Ehrenberg, who always give great insights into the tools. $15,000 win for Tyler. And for James, a $5,000 win at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Man, a few words. Wayne started playing again the past week. I won this with the Sims tool. Do I qualify for a free month of NBA? LOL, thanks a million. Was very happy to see the Nurk ejected. Also, yes, you do qualify, my friend. And Steven with a $15,000 win on top of that. Man, huge week for the Stochastic avatars. Kilo Whiskey, little late into the Hall of Fame, but never too late. Thanks to the Stochastic tools. Thank you guys. Second place in the N1. And Ben P's back. Back-to-back top threes using FanDuel, on FanDuel using the Sims. Almost pulled off the solo dub, but tied with different lineups. 4 in the top 40 out of 71,000 entries. And how about Ben? The playback stream after lock is definitely a huge help. Thanks, guys. Ben again split both of these last night, but another great night. Third time in less than a week. Yeah, Sims Tool coming up big for Ben. Dave Oliver, thank you guys for the great breakdowns and the Sims crush again. Elway's Army's been on a massive heater lately. Unhappy Cowboys fan, don't blame you. Won 2 days before my birthday and did not post. Is it too late for the Stochastic Hall of Fame shout out? Never too late, brother. Never too late. LV finished tied first in a field of 14,000 plus and second in a field of 10K. Smaller stakes, but got it done. Rocking the logo. Can I get my free month, please? Absolutely. And Willie Jenkins, first place in the Minimax. Pinked my first NBA GPP. Thanks entirely to Stochastic. We keep going. Sean Geesey back in the list. Grab second in the late slate 4-point play. Shout out to Stochastic for the best tools in the game. And Jay, Stochastic Sims have been on fire. All credit to the tools for taking first in this contest, helping me get the second top finish in as many weeks. It's not a coincidence that the top three in this contest were all repping the avatar. And Rob came fourth in a field of 5,900 NHL tournament, took first in a smaller field NHL tournament. Really appreciate what you guys do every day. Mac, need to thank Slim Cliffy and Josh for their daily guidance. We got a couple NHL ones in here and weekly entertainment on Stochastic DFS. And then Moo Poo did it again. First place, $1,000 in some MMA action, followed by BK. Shout out to Eric and Stochastic on Malik Monk. $1 into 1,500 isn't bad. That'll do it. All of your winners inducted into the Hall of Fame. Welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, all you got to do to get involved, to get a free month, any Stochastic package of your choice up to $200 is finish top three in a field of 5,000 or more at any entry point and tweet those wins to us at Stochastic HOF.
What is happening, everybody? It is the start of a new week. Time for another live before lock show. As you come into his favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sponsored by BetMGM today. And also, don't forget that when the slate locks in, 52 minutes from now, playback. It is going to be happening. Myself and Josh are going to be breaking down anything that happens post-lock over there. We'll be sweating out the games. We'll be looking at some bets and sports betting also live today in North Carolina, I believe. So Josh has access to that. So it's going to be a good time, guys. Come check us out at Playback. And it's been a lot of fun sweating out some of those games. Eric, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
Doing well. Yeah. Yesterday, good show with EMAC. Terrible lineups. Just absolutely terrible. No good. Very bad lineups on my part. But otherwise, excited to start another week. Like having the $4 right away on a Monday. Like a 6-game slate with every single game on the card, on the docket. Yeah, I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing that we're going to have to talk about today is what are we going to do with all these weird punt value plays that are popping up? And you get to that point of the year where everybody, and by the way, it's not even unjustified, but all of us are playing people that we hadn't heard of a week ago. And it's another one of those slates. So it's going to be fun to walk through it. As you guys are watching, do us a big favor if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have any questions for us and you're in the Discord channel, at me, and we could answer those questions. And of course, we'll be answering your guys' super chats as well. And I see we already have one sitting in here waiting for us. And interesting one. Phil Senzig says, who is the curse of the night? And a curse of the night, just who's a high-owned player that will fail? Who's a player that's projected for a good amount of ownership that you're either underweight to or maybe just have some reservations about?
I'm going to go with God. It's so ridiculous because like chat's just going to run with a Grady Dick.
So you're not getting to, but I knew coming in there was no way we were going to be able to escape the dick puns and the dick references. So right away you're just I didn't want
to do it, and then I'm just like, well, that's my answer, so it is what it is. Dick is $4,600. That's expensive, Dick.
To an extent, but something else you have to consider is, listen, I've paid my fair share of dollars here and there at times, but something else too. Does your opinion change if Bruce Brown is out?
Still expensive Dick, man. I mean, it is it is pricey. $4,600 for him. That's fancy, Dick.
It's quite fancy. It is quite fancy. So the players that are the most popular on the slate, I don't think it's unjustified. Like Javon Freeman Liberty, I understand people are going to be like, who
Liberty
is this guy?
Biberty.
We're all playing him. But I mean, he's super cheap and also just about everybody's out. So there's a whole bunch of opportunity for him. And then in addition to that, like Sam Hauser's really popular, assuming he starts, that makes sense. And then if we start to look at some of the lesser owned guys, somebody who, not like an outright fade from him, but I am underweight to Micic tonight. His price has come up quite a bit. He's now at $5,800. There's a lot of value on the slate. He is projected for 23% ownership. I've got exposure to him in the teens. So not like he's unplayable, just a little bit too popular. So somebody who I'm a little bit underweight to. But the players that are the most popular, I think it's all relatively justified chalk. If we're talking about the super chalky guys, would you agree with that?
Yes, very much so. I mean, Liberty Biberty is going to play so many minutes for freaking 3,500s.
Yeah.
Hauser, he's 3,600. We all assume he starts, but you're going to have enough exposure to evening window of stuff between Toronto and that. Like, you're still going to have an hour and a half of buffer. Maybe we don't get the news before then, but you'll be able to kind of maneuver your lineups around where it's not a huge concern what happens with him. Karis LeVert, yesterday's Nuke of the Night, ended up starting. He's going to play a boatload of minutes yet. Again here, obviously, yesterday it was not ideal in any way, shape, or form. Didn't enjoy it, but going right back to the well. I mean, your three most popular chalk pieces. And then Trace Jackson Davis, as long as he's going to continue to start here, 24 minutes of him, 26 minutes of him minimum against San Antonio. That seems pretty decent.
Yep, totally agree. And then even somebody like you mentioned, when it comes to Javon Freeman Liberty, has he played a lot? No, we have very little sample size on him. So it's not this is the end all be all, but this is really all we have to draw from. He's scoring about 0.85 fantasy points per minute in the amount of time he's been out on the court. And then on top of that, he's $3,500. It is a terrible matchup against the Denver Nuggets, but he's kind of game script proof in the terms of he's going to be in the rotation if the game is competitive. If it's a blowout, I don't see any reason he wouldn't play the garbage time run. So
Same.
I actually think the best case scenario for him is probably the Denver Nuggets go out, they win by like 40 points, and then he plays the entire fourth quarter against scrubs.
Yep, there you go.
So thank you for the super chat there, Phil. Good way to open up the show, talking about some potential fade. Shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out his 5 YouTube memberships. As always, Chris, we really appreciate you supporting the channel. And then Ace of Spade wants to know, who are the best options for DK tiers tonight? So if we go ahead and look at tiers, starting with tier 1, we've got both Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. And there's a really big drop off. Wemby is a tier 1 guy now, but I don't like him over Lukic or Doncic. We've also got Kevin Durant there. Don't like him in tier 1 with Devin Booker in. So between Luka and Jokic, who's your preferred spend up option for tier 1?
Luka.
Same. And fair to assume that is going to be the same for you in large field tournaments as well?
It is not. It is pretty neutral. Ooh. I'm getting to a ton of both of them.
Interesting. So I am overweight to both of them, but I do get quite a bit more Luka than I get to Jokic.
I have like 5% more Luka in my last run. So
I have
nothing
42% Luka and 30% Jokic right now. So once again, a good amount of both of them. And it's very easy. Tell me if this is the case for you as well. I've got 2 stars in a lot of my lineups looking through it, and different guys showing up in lineups. Jason Tatum, Jokic, Luka, some exposure to Jamal Murray, some exposure to Cade Cunningham. But I've got, because of the amount of value on the slate, 2 of these guys in most of my lineups. Is that the same for yourself?
Yes, it is.
Tier 2, let's move on to that tier and see what is cooking there. Pretty easy for me, Jason Tatum, who probably should be in tier 1.
Correct.
Tier 3 is much tighter. We've got Vooch, we've got Cade Cunningham, we've got Jamal Murray. Which way do you like going in tier 3?
Vooch.
I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham. It is very close
between
Vooch and Cunningham. I mean, it's Jamal Murray also can make a strong consideration there, although a little bit of a worry of a potential blowout there. But tier 3, I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham. Tier 4, I'm going to go with DeMar DeRozan, who's played exceptionally well for the Bulls in the second half of the season. I do think part of that has been that, one, Zach LaVine has been out, but the other part of it too is they have to play their core guys more minutes as they are trying to make a playoff push. But DeMar DeRozan for me in this tier.
Yeah, I like him and Jaylen Brown about identically. I have them within half a fantasy point of each other. You can make an argument for both, but because everybody's going to play Tatum in tier 2, you're probably going to get some kind of leverage going to Brown there in tier 4. So I'll say Brown just to get a little different.
Tier 5, I'm going to go with Karis LeVert, considering all the injuries that are going on with the Cavs.
Yep, him or Kobe White. They're projected about the same, probably slightly Karis LeVert for me.
And then tier 6, I am going to, well, I'm actually in between a couple of guys here. One of them is an Eric favorite from the beginning of the year, and Jalen Duren. Well, maybe a little less of a favorite. You don't bring him up quite as much. He was a printer for you at the start of the season.
Sure was.
And then we got Derek White benefiting from the injury situation in Boston with Drew Holiday out. So I think you go with Duren or Derek White. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Duren here, but Derek White also an acceptable option. Which way do you lean?
Yeah, Duren plus 250 opening night to double-double. He has routinely been major minus money. I think he's like minus 200 today, double-double. I mean, coming off the injury too, where there were minimal minutes. Now he's just playing a ton of minutes. It's going to be Duren for me.
Now let's get into the Discord. I see we've already got some people cooking up questions, including Jordan. I'm going to have you play an animation here because Kenny Wayne has a question here for us. He wants to know, who is the exotic play of the night? Thanks, boys. Eric has to answer. And he says he's going to cancel the subscription if Eric doesn't answer tonight. So Jordan, play the animation. Lots of pressure on Eric to get this one correct. Please allow us to see the animation. I want to tilt Eric's hair a little bit. Of the night. By the way, I don't know that there's ever been a better slate for the exotic play of the night, Eric. They are filling up my lineups today. They are absolutely filling up my lineups. I don't know if it's the case for you, but I mean, you've got to be loving this slate. We've got a chalk Sam Hauser. We've got Luka as a pay-up option. We've got Jokic. We've got Dick tonight, who I know you already said that you're off Dick, but still, he's somebody's picking up a bunch of ownership. We got Micic. This is how you know. Once you get to the tail end of the season, you get garbage time. This is where the exotics come out to play. But which way are you going tonight, Eric? Exotic play of the night for Monday. Start our week off right. Who are you going with?
Oh, crikey. It's going to be fucking Nikola Jokic, because how could it not be? Him and Luka Doncic, co-exotic plays of the night.
Javon Freeman Liberty is an aggressively white-sounding name.
He is definitely not white.
But Freeman Liberty.
Liberty Bibberty.
I'm going to go with Luka. So I know you said that Jokic is your slightly preferred spend-up option, but it's Luka for me. It is not hard, just to reiterate a point from before, it is not hard to spend up for studs today. And you could go Luka and Jokic in the same lineup, but overall, my most rostered spend-up option, it is going to be Luka on the high end. So that is, for me, the way that I'm going for the exotic play of the night. Let's see what we have next here for us in Discord. Kenny Wayne, as always, thank you. You're doing the Lord's work in there. Next question.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey,
Kenny
Eric.
Wayman.
Do you have any pick six plays tonight?
There we go. Much better. More up my alley. So there's a couple of numbers that move throughout the day, and you can always kind of like go back and take a look at it. But Luka is at 33.5 points against Chicago's second slowest team. There's a lot of ways that Luka is going to fill up a stat sheet, and I'm not going to be immune to playing him a ton in DFS, but what happens a lot, just like it does in other markets, is people like to bet studs on more on their performances. How about less than 33.5 points? He's sitting at 32.5 everywhere else around the marketplace right now, or at least he was an hour and a half ago. I like the less on that from the earlier window. And then I think just kind of backloading some lineups. I talk about this a lot when I talk about pick six, but you're allowed to pivot out just like you would have like a no house advantage. You get a 0 if you play somebody who is out. So obviously do not play like the Quicklies or the things in that Toronto Denver game. But with Boston Portland, I think there's going to be something to mine out of it. I'm just not exactly sure what it's going to be here yet. So I don't mind any Al Horford type props that we're looking at here, depending on what the marketplace is looking at, but definitely be backloading some lineups tonight. Excuse me.
I have a question about pick six, Eric, because
Yes.
I can't play it from New Jersey. Don't have access to it. I can't wait for it to be live, though, because it's something that I am pretty excited about overall. So if you guys aren't playing it, play it for me, because I would like to be able to play it. Can you make late swaps to your cards?
Yes.
In pick six?
Yep. You can swap from any prop to any prop. You're allowed to switch to any play as long as that game is not locked yet. So it's just like when a player locks in DFS, your prop locks. So you basically have, the 6 p.m. Pacific time Toronto-Denver game, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, Boston-Portland. I really like getting late exposure because, one, sometimes people are asleep on the East Coast and sleeping on their props just like they would be in other spots. We've seen some massive payouts in evening window games just because people didn't react to news and they have dead lineups. But then the second part is that you can kind of see how earlier plays are panning out. You kind of can kind of get a gauge of what the payout will be and how risky you might want to get, or in the event that you want to have a stud that is going to be very, very popular for a play, because that does happen, especially in like the late pick sets, something will really stand out. Go the opposite of it. And if it ends up not panning out for everybody else, you get paid exponentially more for your completed 2 through 6 play cards. So yeah, you're allowed to swap.
All right.
You should be swapping.
Good to know. It's why I asked. Just Locks is asking us, is fading LeVert okay in one lineup since the Cavs are on a back-to-back playing a FanDuel GPP? Yeah, if you're playing one lineup, by the way, not even related to whether it being a back-to-back or not, but if you're playing one lineup, I mean, I think that LeVert is more or less appropriately owned in the lineups I ran on FanDuel. I got 60% of him out of 150. He's projected for 58% ownership. So yeah, if you're playing one lineup, you're not obligated to play Caris LeVert. I think he's a very strong option, but I don't think he's so good that you absolutely have to play him on FanDuel. What do you make of a LeVert over on FanDuel tonight, Eric?
Let me see what I ended up with on him. I'm not playing over there. Yeah, I have no problem with playing him. 6,800. He's a smash over there.
Yeah,
I like him.
He's a good play, but I don't think that, because Justin is wanting to get off of him into his single entry lineup here. He's going to be super popular. There's very rarely a circumstance where I'm going to tell somebody they have to play somebody in a GPP. Like, I think you're making a really big mistake if you don't have exposure to Freeman Liberty on the slate. But anytime anybody's playing one lineup, unless they're in 100% of my lineups, I'm probably going to say it's okay to not have them in it.
They don't have they do have the Toronto game. What is Freeman Liberty on FanDuel? He's 3,700. He's like not showing up at all on FanDuel.
Yeah, I got to a ton of him when I ran lineups on FanDuel.
What in the world?
To him in 93% of my lineups.
Yep, I have 100% of him. Just kidding. I had
I was gonna
something
say, I don't
else
know how
wrong.
you're not getting to him.
No, I just wanted to double check what I was looking at because I did not have that correct.
We got a super chat from Ryan Andriotti who wants to know, who are the top DK values tonight? Yes, sir. So a lot of them are going to be pretty popular that we're going to talk about. And I think points per dollar, it's pretty clear the best values are Javon Freeman Liberty, Trace Jackson Davis, Sam Hauser, 3 cheap guys, 2 of them sub 4K, one of them at $4,400 in Trace Jackson Davis. All of them really strong value options. Do you disagree with any of that, Eric? And if not, maybe we'll try to find a contrarian value option we like as well.
Nope, those all sounded fantastical.
Are there any contrarian value options that you're finding yourself getting to in lineups?
I am definitely going to play a little bit of Peyton Pritchard. I'm definitely going to play. He's 3,800. Again, it's the blowout potential of that spot. I'm going to play Delano Banton. He's 5,100, not even really quote unquote value at this point in time, but hey, I've got a little bit of Jordan Nwora in my life. Again, there's some definite blowout potential that exists here for those evening games. And I think trying to find your way onto a couple of pieces of value here and there is not the worst plan of action.
The contrarian value that I like getting to, it actually does relate to a guy who you just brought up, Jontay Porter. Jontay Porter is the flat min. He's been a decent fantasy producer when he's gotten on the court this year. It's just the playing time's always been inconsistent. Even when he was starting, the Raptors would look for reasons to take him off the court. But start to consider how many players are out for them tonight. In addition, the potential blowout risk of 15.5-point underdogs. We don't talk about blowout risk all that often on our shows because it's not typically all that relevant, but this is one of these spots. 15.5-point spread. Denver, one of the best teams in the NBA. Toronto, a team that just does not have a good team on paper with the amount of guys who are out today. And I think Jontay Porter is a guy who would really benefit from potential garbage time. So Jontay Porter, that is a contrarian value option that I'm getting not a crazy amount of, but I do have more than 10% of him. Is Jontay Porter somebody who makes it into your lineups at all?
I have 15% of him, so yes.
Okay, cool. So we are on the same page there. Ryan Andriotti. Hope that helps you build out your lineups there. And if we get back into Discord here, we do have a question from M. Grizzly. He wants to know, are we boosting anybody in the Sims tonight, Eric? Is there anybody that you are looking at and saying, I need to get more of this guy and force him into my lineups?
It's not that I'm saying I need to go out of my way to do it, but I do think one thing I want is exposure to some of the cheapies that people aren't getting to as much from those 2 evening games, specifically from the Boston side and the Toronto side. I think both of them just have opportunities to boost up a little bit of Jonte Porter. You don't have to boost Jonte Porter. I think he'll show up anyway, but getting to a little bit of the Peyton Pritchard, getting to Jordan Nwora, just talked about him as well. Finding small bits of leverage here or there, or finding ways to like incorporate them with some of the chalkier plays, or potentially, going to have near 100% Javon Freeman Liberty. But I think that there's just ways to find little bits of edge there by getting to the sub 4K spots and just saying, 12 minutes of fourth quarter run is on the table for a guy like Jordan Nwora. Like 12 minutes of fourth quarter run for Jonte Porter is very, very live to happen as well. And I mean, you're talking about a drastically different play if that were to be the case. So I think both those games have merit to going to those cheapies.
Yeah, and we'll get back into some of these Discord questions. Yeah, so for me, it's just boosting some of the value options that I think have potential to have good games in that blowout sort of situation, like Peyton Pritchard you brought up, Jonte Porter we've talked about, Jordan Nwora I've got around 10% of. So just trying to make sure some of those guys make it into your lineups if they aren't already. I think it's a good way to just mix in some value plays that are not projected for 1 billion% ownership or anything like that. So that's a way that I think that you should be using the Sims to differentiate some lineups. And also, if you guys want access to any of the tools that we have at Stokastic.com, links to sign up for any of them are below. And if you want access to our Discord channel, the most cost-effective package that we have here is the lineup generator package, less than $15. And there's a bunch of different ways that you guys could use that package, which also is going to get you Discord access. You could ask myself and Eric questions over the course of shows or after shows end, before shows begin, whenever. But in the lineup generator package, you are going to get lineups that are built for you. But if you want to customize them using our player projections and ownership projections, that is also included in the lineup generator. So if you guys want to sign up for that, use the link that we have below. Get yourself access to the lineup generator. Great tool for somebody who's a little bit newer playing DFS, or just somebody who needs help improving their process. We did just get some news here, and it is that, so Wemby will play today, uncertain for tomorrow, and he's expected to have a minutes limit, Eric. So with that in mind, was Wemby somebody that you were getting to, and does this make it so you don't want to play him anymore?
I wasn't going to play him anyway.
Let me see. What do I have with Wemby?
I doubt I'm going to get there. He's not on a minute. I know. So I'm saying I doubt I'm going to get there anyway. I didn't have him on like a minutes limit, but like, does this mean all of a sudden we're going to take him and put him on 34?
Not on a minutes limit. Good. Yeah. Thank you for calling that out, Jordan. I cannot read.
Greg's not a fucking idiot.
Limit. My bad.
It's all right. You just ruined the show, and now we have nowhere to go but up. So I guess that's cool. So 10-5 Victor Wembanyama. I mean, what are we going to put him at? We have him at 30 minutes already. We're going to put him at 32. He's not going to play 36. Not on a minutes limit. What are we even saying here? He's still going to be on whatever minutes limit they've had him on the entire year.
Well, his last 4 games, he played 31, 31, 32, 34 minutes. The biggest issue I have with Wemby is that he's center only eligible. He was, remember, for the longest time, we're getting Wemby a power forward and center. It makes a pretty big difference that he's center only. I could be wrong on this. Is this the first time on DraftKings that he's been center only eligible this season?
Yes. It is. Unless the Houston slate on the 5th got hurt. Yeah, no, this is definitely the first time he's been center only.
So when you consider the amount of value we have at center, you also got Jokic as a pay up option at center. It's hard for me to get to Wemby, even though I've been big on the Wemby fan club this year. This isn't going to be a Wemby slate for me.
Yeah, probably not.
Let's see what
Sar Thompson out.
We just got Azur Thompson is listed out for today, and then we've got Quentin Grimes listed available to play. I've really made sure that I read those ones correctly this time, Eric. So with word that Azur Thompson is going to be out, what kind of impact is that going to have, if any, for your lineups? I'm not sure if I was getting to Thompson or not.
Yeah, I mean, this is just probably good for anybody on pick 6 stuff, and prize picks I had the more on fantasy score for Isaiah Stewart, and that was before the Thompson news even came out there, and he's going to continue to climb up a little bit. I don't think it does a ton for me, mainly because these are 5K options that you're kind of looking at in Stewart, in Ivy. Cade Cunningham was somebody that I was already going to get to. Jalen Duren, I was already going to be getting to. I'm not going to go crazy changing anything there. The rebound rate is the main thing to be paying attention to there. Duren probably looks a little like maybe a half rebound better, probably for everybody down the line there. Isaiah Stewart, I mean, the usage just hasn't been there. He's been playing lots of time, but like just teens usage, that's not really going to get affected by Sar Thompson. That's a guy who, until 11 minutes, he had a nearly 30% usage last time out, but he's been pretty flat there, 16.6% usage. You're going to replace that with like Sasser minutes. You're going to replace it with Quentin Grimes minutes. You're going to replace it with some of these other guys at the 3. Like, I don't think it does a ton for me unless we get something random in the starting lineup, and we'll know that before lock.
I was not getting to Fontecchio before. I'm pretty sure I'm going to now. So Fontecchio, I expect, is going to enter the starting lineup. He started the second half of Jordan, that was trippy right there, whatever just happened. But if we look at the last game the Pistons played in, we saw Thompson leave in, the second quarter with an illness. He actually played fairly well in the first quarter, even though he was dealing with an illness. I can't remember who it was in Discord, but somebody pointed out that Thompson looked terrible on the court physically, even if he was playing well from a fantasy standpoint. And so he's like, I think Thompson might be sick. It looks like he's about to throw up on the court. And then 15 minutes later, we found out Thompson ruled out due to an illness. Yeah. And then we saw Fontecchio start the second half. He ended up playing 32 and a half minutes, 27 points in that game. I think he earned himself another start. If the game stays competitive, I expect pretty big minutes out of him. It's very rare we get a Pistons game that's expected to be competitive. Even rarer. This has to be the first time it's happened the entire year. Do you know what the spread is for this game, Eric?
Yeah, they're favored. I brought that up as well, where it's hilarious.
5
I said
points.
Yeah,
5
the Eisenhower
points.
administration, the last time that Detroit was favored in a basketball game, that's kind of what it seems like. But it's ironic, too, because Mr. Jordan Klein and I were at the first game that Fontecchio played in a Detroit Pistons uniform, played the Clippers, and he immediately gets put into the starting lineup as soon as that had happened. And then had a couple of interesting games against Indy, against New York, ends up coming off the bench here for the last amount of time, but had been playing decent minutes. I mean, he's played 33, 29, 32 minutes. I mean, obviously, this definitely solidifies those minutes. So he's somebody that we had around 25 minutes. He's definitely going to go up. So I like that shout out. We'll see kind of where that run comes in. Definitely going to be somebody that you're going to want to have in your lineups here. But I don't see, do you see anything else? Like Quentin Grimes, I don't know what those minutes are really going to look like. He's 3,900. He had played mid-20s minutes at times off the bench. But like, do we want to do it this early in the slate? Probably not.
No, to me, it's, like there's little guys that are going to benefit a little bit from Detroit. Like maybe this means Isaiah Stewart sees a couple of extra minutes, which the end result is I had 1% of Isaiah Stewart for. Maybe I rerun lineups and get to like 3% of Isaiah Stewart. So there's little bumps that are going to happen to guys. And, like Jaden Ivey, he's in 10% of my lineups. Maybe he gets into like 14% or something like that. But as an individual player who benefits the most, I had none of Fontecchio before, and I'm fairly sure that he's somebody who I'm going to get a chunk of now.
Gotcha.
I'll check when our projections update here, and when they do, see what we're looking at as far as our minutes projection for Fontecchio, and then what it does to him as a points per dollar play. So that should be coming shortly here. But yeah, nothing else that really stands out. But it's nice that we get, like I said, a game that Detroit's in. They're at home, good matchup against Charlotte, and we don't have to worry about them losing by 40 points like Detroit is prone to do in many of their games. So pretty good spot to get to Fontecchio. See if there was any other super chats that came in while we were getting to that news. No, there are not. By the way, we just got word out. Fontecchio will officially start. So no real surprise there. Stokes wants to know, who is the pay up option that is the most ownership on DraftKings? So who are you expecting to be the most popular over 10K?
It's going to, let's see. It's going to probably be Jokic. Or over 9K, Tatum. Over 10K, it'll be Jokic.
Yeah, so we've got, and by the way, I think all the pay up options are under owned on this slate. Because
Correct.
there's so much value. If you're going to be overweight to the value, which I think you should be, it makes it so much easier to be overweight to the studs as well. So here's what we have in our ownership projections right now. We've got Jokic projected for 20.8% ownership. I'm overweight to that mark. We've got Luka projected for 19.4%. I'm overweight to that mark as well. The one the field is going to the most is Jason Tatum at $9,500 at 35%. Seems more or less accurate to me, but the question is about the over 10K guys. I love getting overweight to both Luka and Jokic for this slate. Anything else you have to add about pay up options?
Nope, that's perfect.
All right, let's go ahead and look at the question we got here from Rico Rod 1980. It is a FanDuel question.
Okay.
He wants to know, who are the top FanDuel plays by position? I know, Eric, you said that you had some.
I built some. Yeah, I built some here. So point guard, Javon Freeman Liberty, 100%. Like just
Javon Freeman
everything.
Liberty at point guard. That is going to be the guy for sure. Shooting guard, what do you have?
Karis LeVert.
Karis LeVert for me as well. Small forward.
Not named Karis LeVert, DeMar DeRozan.
Grady Dick. Power forward.
Grant Williams.
Unfortunately, yes. Grant Williams. Good matchup for him against
5K.
the Pistons.
Yeah. And center's
There's
Vooch.
a lot of ways you can go at center. It's there's not like one standout option in my opinion, but what do you have at center?
Vooch.
Nikola Jokic for me.
Cool.
And no guys who are only center eligible that are showing up in more than 20% of lineups. Like a lot of guys that I was seeing 18 to 10% owned across my lineups, but Jokic, that is going to be my guy here at center. Here we've got a super chat. David Smith says, why is Eric super salty today? And then he sends you a virtual hug.
Oh, I'm very, very sick today. I'm sorry.
Oh no. What happened?
Yeah. I don't know. I had so whenever Melanie's out of town, I usually get like Thai food or something that she just normally wouldn't have. And I definitely ate something I shouldn't have last night. Was basically up all night, just throwing up. And so, yeah. So I apologize if I don't seem 100%. I am definitely not 100% today. It's my flu game. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. That's no good.
It's okay.
That's no good.
You didn't do it. Well, I mean, I guess, yes, I didn't bring it up at any point. Then he just had to let everybody know, hey, Eric's being a bitch today. Please stop. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, good to know. Just really, really not feeling well.
Wasn't me. Haven't seen Eric. Didn't send anything in the mail. Didn't spread any communicable diseases to him. There was no anthrax involved. None of that.
Yeah.
Remember when the anthrax was a big thing? My parents wouldn't let me get the mail for a while.
I was gonna say my parents did the same thing where it was like in the garage you had like a little letter opener thing, and it's like I don't think that's gonna save us from anthrax, but just throwing it out there. Like,
now, you know you had a sibling your parents didn't like as much if during the anthrax times they asked him to get the mail.
You go get it.
That's how you know.
Eric's gonna get a scholarship. Yeah, you go get it, Steven. Make my brother do it.
Next question. Here's from Merrill Peak. He wants to know Isaiah Stewart or Grant Williams today on FanDuel. That is Grant Williams for me.
I didn't even hear the question. I was spacing out and reading chat. I suck.
And then Riley Cooper 14 wants to know Pritchard or Hauser. If you're just playing one lineup, the answer is Sam Hauser. I'm expecting him to start for the Boston Celtics today. And if you look at the situation with Peyton Pritchard, it was somebody had asked us about whether we thought Pritchard was going to start or not in playback right before we had started the show. So I actually jumped on while we had some of the other stuff playing on screen or whatever, and just was talking to some of the people over in playback, which we're going to be live there in 21 minutes after this slate locks to break down stuff in the post-lock show, myself and Josh. And that's when we'll let Eric go and get some rest as well. As far as Peyton Pritchard goes, my expectation is Sam Hauser starts. So my opinion could change if he does not start for the Boston Celtics, but I do expect him to start. He's one of the better points per dollar plays on the slate. I like Peyton Pritchard as a contrarian option, but as far as a priority goes, Hauser's one of my most rostered players on the slate.
Sam Hauser, I said, we're just assuming he starts. It's so hard at his price point to not be interested. He gives you maneuverability the entire night. If something surprising were to happen, we've got enough exposure to Toronto, Denver, Boston, Portland, where you have an hour and a half window there where if something drops beforehand, I'm assuming we probably get the Boston starting lineup after it. But even so, like, there's going to be some kind of swappability you have out of it. And he's going to play. So, like, I don't really think that I would feel extremely burned. I'm not going to play 100% of him or anything like that. This isn't like an all-in play. But there's a reason, my friends, my brothers in Christ, that he is 50% owned.
Let me do a refresh here to see if we've got Data update for the Detroit Pistons. And let's see. Projections. I'll let you guys know where Pritchard is at on DraftKings and FanDuel. Yes, we got an update here. So Fontecchio. We are expecting Fontecchio to play 33 minutes in our projections. That has him at 25.2 DraftKings points at $4,700. Certainly makes him somebody that we're going to want to be getting to. Fontecchio over on FanDuel looks okay, but he's $5,100. That $400 price increase relative to DraftKings makes him a little bit less of a priority, but still 24.5 fantasy points from a $5,100 in play on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, somebody who, like I said before, I think he winds up in a chunk of my lineups once I update everything here in a second. Next question is from John P. on DraftKings. He's asking us a 2v2, Nurkic and Hardaway or Eaton and Dick?
The first one.
You don't like the Eaton Dick combination?
I mean, just and eight. I see what he did there.
Yeah,
it's adorable.
I'm trying to figure out the. Oh, I see how he wanted us to pronounce it.
That's how he wanted that badly.
So you know what he should have done? Because who calls Eaton instead of DeAndre Doman? It was a little bit of a stretch.
Is what he wanted.
You could have just gone with Eaton Dick and would have gotten the point. You didn't have to add the Doman to it because nobody calls him that. It's not his nickname.
Well, if you just wanted it to be dominating,
I'll go. I like Eaton Dick. Cheers Brew wants to know DK cash locks and then what to do with the first game on the slate. Yeah, so as far as the first game on the slate, there are players that I want to get exposure to. I'm not willing to forego it for a couple of reasons. First off, there isn't so much injuries on the slate to where I feel like I have to forego the first game because we've gotten a lot of players already ruled out. There's a lot of value available to us. So in the first game of the slate, I mean, I like getting to Jalen Duren. We talked about liking Fontecchio just now. So you should be getting exposure to that game. But as far as the players you absolutely have to have in cash games, Javon Freeman Liberty, Sam Hauser, Karis LeVert, I think you should be playing Trace Jackson Davis in cash as well as Jason Tatum, those five.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see what else we have here. Got a question from Phil Senzig. Phil wants to know, FanDuel $3, 10% to first. How does the Sims adjust to that? Yes. So here's how it works. When you're running everything through the Sims, Phil, and you select that percentage payout to first, the contest, when it's simulating, it simulates 40,000 times. The games are all played on a play-by-play basis. The slate is simulated out that way. And when you're looking at the end results, the simulated ROI, it's going to slightly alter based on what the percentage to first payout is. The way it's going to work is if something's like a 30% payout to first, it's going to slightly more prioritize contrarian lineups, the Sims, because those ones are going to be ones that set themselves apart a little bit more. Whereas if you have it set to 10% to first, you don't have to be as contrarian to have good profitable lineups on that slate. So it adjusts to the contest payout because when the slate is simulating all the lineups play against each other, they're playing it in the payout structure you select there. So that's why you want to select the correct payout to first there. Malcolm Revamp says, Greg, any NBA tiers? Yes, we answered that earlier, but I still have it open on my screen so I could run it back and I'll see because Eric thinks I never listened to him. So when we do this, I'm going to try to recall what all of Eric's tiers picks were earlier in the show. We both went with Luka in tier 1. We both went with Tatum in tier 2. Tier 3, Eric went with Vooch. I went with Cade Cunningham. Tier 4, I ended up going with DeMar DeRozan. I believe Eric went with Jaylen Brown to just differentiate some lineups considering how much Tatum he's expecting the field to play. Tier 5, I went with Karis LeVert. Eric went with Kobe White. Tier 6, I went with Jalen Duren, and Eric was cool with Duren or Derek White. Impressed?
Well done. I'm just so impressed with you, Greg. Thank you for listening to me one time.
All right. Please do not. Actually, I was going to say please don't vomit on the camera, but it would be pretty good entertainment.
Yeah, there have been moments throughout the show where I'm just like, but I'm
if you
crushing.
Need to check out, I could handle it by myself.
I know. I'm doing all right. Doing all right still.
All right. If you shit your pants, you better text me about it though.
We're gonna get to Nuke of the Night. It's in the first game, so we kind of need to get to it.
All right. If you want to do the Nuke of the Night now, we can do it. Jordan, play the animation. Give Eric a little reprieve. It is time for Nuke of the Night. He gets 8 seconds off while the animation plays. Boom, and there it goes. Eric, you did tip your hand a little bit. You said the nuke of the night's coming from the first game. So Charlotte, Detroit, is it Kate Cunningham? Is it somebody else? Tell us who the nuke is.
So there's one play that we haven't talked about from Detroit, Charlotte, and I'm a little bit surprised that he's not pulling more ownership. This might be something that pops up when we get to the flip, and then all of a sudden, everybody's like, oh yeah, of course that he ended up owned. But there's a sub 5K play that exists, and I think Fontecchio is going to be somebody that definitely shows up in my lineups. I have a little bit of message, but I'm not going to be at 23%. But Davis Bertans is 6%. And this is a guy that I thought was completely dead in the world. I have not rostered him like a single time. He's leading the Charlotte Hornets right now in fantasy point per minute rate after the All-Star break. He is finding ridiculous amounts of usage in pretty much every single one of these matchups. And he's sub 5K. There is some unpredictable minutes still that exist for a guy like Sam Hauser. We have, some weird positionality with some of the Toronto pieces that we can kind of mix and match, but Javon Freeman sits at point guard, shooting guard. So basically, if I'm going to lock up lineup spots earlier, it might as well be at a position where I'm not covering the best values and a position where I'm not covering the spend ups that I want, the Luka and the Jokic's. So how about we go to power forward for a guy who out of the middle of nowhere is chucking 8, 9, 10 threes every single time he touches the floor off the bench, played 26, 32, 28 minutes the last 3. And now it's a Detroit spot that's about as good of a spot as you can run into coming off of what? Brooklyn? I mean, this is definitely going to be somebody that I just have 20, 25% of if the field is going to be sub 10% on him. So 0.91 fantasy point per minute producer on the season, nearly a fantasy point per minute here since the All-Star break. Davis Bertans, the most unlikely of unlikely nuke of the nights.
Starting to rerun lineups now for the most recent news we have here. And I think I'm going to get to a chunk, like talking before, I think I'm going to get to a good chunk of Fontecchio when this sim finishes running here. And I don't know the field is going to get to him quite as much as they should be. So I'm going to go with Fontecchio as my nuke of the night. Another guy who, how much more do we have to talk about Fontecchio? He's going to be starting. He's going to play big minutes and fairly secure minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble, which should be a competitive game against the Charlotte Hornets. And this could be a slate with a couple of blowouts on. We got the Boston Celtics playing the Portland Trailblazers. We've got Denver going up against Toronto. It's very rare that Charlotte and Detroit are in game that we expect to be competitive, but it happens when they play against each other. So Fontecchio, that is going to be for me, the nuke of the night here. Let's get back into the questions in Discord and see if we could bang out a bunch of these before we get into lock. And let me make sure that there is no more. Yeah, we got all the super chats here. But here we've got one from... here's where we left it off. Ken Star 30, no love for Niang tonight. So George Niang has been a very popular play as of late, Eric. Is he somebody you were going back to today?
Don't think so. Let's see my last run, what I got of him. I had one, so I'm playing 150 on DK. Yeah, I have one lineup with George Niang. Maybe that changes here in the next run. Again, if you're going to lock up lineup spots early here in any of these spots, I like small forward, power forward. I think that they're just fine to be the spots that you land on. So I prefer Bertans, Fontecchio. We're basically bringing up 3 guys that are all going to be pretty darn shooting dependent, and you kind of want to just land on the right ones. They're all going to play around 30 minutes. I mean, we're basically kind of making cases for each one. But I will say, Cleveland gets the worst spot, having the 107 implied total up against Phoenix there, whereas, Detroit and Charlotte, they get the benefit of playing each other. So I would say George Niang falling by the wayside mainly because of that, but I get why you're landing there.
So there's a couple of things. There's better value now than there was on some of those other Niang slates that popped up, and he's more expensive than he was because I'm trying to remember, what was he, like 3,200 or 3,600 the first slate he started?
Yeah, low 3K. Yep.
Yeah. So now that his price has come up a little bit, he's also not creeping up on anybody. He's been popular on some of these slates. Not nearly the same priority he was on some of those other ones. No love for him. Rico Rod says, with blowout potential, Denver role players who could benefit the most, is there any Denver role player that you consider taking a GPP flyer on for a blowout game script?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. Jordan Nwora, Jaden McDaniels.
No, on Denver.
Oh, on Denver, sorry. Peyton Watson would be okay, but he's been in the rotation in a way where I think they might actually start easing up a little bit for him. I mean, Reggie Jackson always makes some sense, but he's 4,100, so probably not. Christian Brown sucks on a per minute basis. Answer's probably no, but I would understand if you wanted a share of Peyton Watson or two. Like I could probably be all right with it. Probably won't be doing it. I guess the one intriguing guy, if you're looking at just like a fantasy point per minute rate, upside, price tag, he played 15 minutes in a blowout spot against Utah, maybe Zeke Naji, but again, that is so unbelievably thin.
It's not needed on this slate. There's
Correct.
so much good points per dollar value that I don't, if you're playing like the late slate or something like that, totally different scenario where you have lesser options to choose from, or if you're playing Showdown also, something like that. I don't know if there is a Showdown slate for that particular game. I'd have to look. That's a scenario where I'd be looking at some potential piece that could benefit from a Denver blowout. The problem is this: you need a blowout. You need to hit on the guys that are actually going to play the minutes, and then you still need them to outscore the Sam Hausers, the Freeman Liberties of the world. So not on this slate. Not for me. I don't think it's needed, Rico Rod. I understand where your head is at, though. Lucky asking us, is there anybody that we're boosting now at this point? Any injury news that you're waiting on that you think could alter your lineups?
No, I talked about the Bertans one. I mean, I think I'm going to get to a little bit of Grady Dick here now. Again, it was more of like the question that we got prompted where it's like, who's going to just basically suck, who's popular. I could see a very strong case for Dick being popular, and don't probably need to have this much of him that I got in the Sims tool just a second ago. So maybe a little bit of an ROI downgrade, but otherwise pretty set. Yeah, Davis Bertans being the main one. Fontecchio ended up in 33% of lineups, just fine with that. I think that that's going to be kind of where that lands at as well. Jaden Ivey has taken a little bit of a bump up here too. I mean, I'm getting to quite a bit of Charlotte, Detroit. I know there'll be some swappability later on. We could get a wonky Toronto starting lineup. Like you could get Nwora starting. It wouldn't shock me. You could get a number of different guys starting and it wouldn't shock me. But for the most part, I think the early game value is still pretty decent, even relative to Javon Freeman Liberty, who is my most popular player, and Sam Hauser, my second most popular player right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's also nice that we're getting to a lot of Freeman Liberty. And the reason is just the start time of the game, with it being the 9 p.m. Eastern time start time. If anything bizarre happens on the slate where unexpected players get ruled out, weird starting lineups, it'll be easy to just swap him out for a different value option, especially when he's going to be in like nearly everything that I end up doing on this slate. So I don't really feel a need to go boost anything too crazy other than some of the guys I mentioned before, like, Jonte Porter a little bit, potentially a little bit of Peyton Pritchard, but just value options that I already like that I want to get a little bit more, but no like crazy aggressive boosts for this slate. Gotcha. SJBS wants to know, how much Fontecchio am I getting to? I'll know shortly. I've got everything rerunning for the Ozar Thompson news and Fontecchio standing as a value play. I know I'm going to get to a good amount of them. I'll know the exact amount shortly here, though. Did you rerun stuff since the Thompson news?
Yeah, I got some. I rerun. I said 33%.
Cool.
See, there you are, not listening to me again. It's okay though. Austin Eckler going to the Commanders. Oh my.
All right, I've got my lineups in here, just favorited them. Fontecchio and 32% of my lineups is the number I got to. So
look at us.
Good chunk of Fontecchio, like I was expecting. So there's the answer to your question there, SJBS. Monkey Prick wants to know our thoughts on Trace Jackson Davis today. So
what?
He is, so for our friend Monkey Prick, I think there's tiers to the value options. Javon Freeman Liberty is number 1. And then Trace Jackson Davis, Sam Hauser are tier 2 in terms of the super cheap value plays. Eric, what do you make of Monkey Prick's question?
It was just the greatest name that I've ever heard since being on these shows. Kicker of K Hunts, probably a close second.
Yeah, he is. He's somebody to get to. Very high priority option. He's in like 70% of my lineups. Next question here from Rico Rod. He wants to know Cade and Jokic or Luka and Vooch. I'll go Luka and Vooch for that one. Cade and Jokic or Luka and Vooch, Eric?
Luka and Vooch.
And then we got a question from Sir George Peelsworth. He wants to know Jokic and Kuminga or Wemby and Vooch. I'm going to go Jokic and Kuminga for that.
Love it.
Next question here is from Bears35. He wants to know, how do we manage this Celtics stuff? What Celtics stuff?
So we know it. I mean, it would be very surprising to me if we didn't have Al Horford, Sam Hauser taking over starting duties for Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday today.
I mean, the way you manage it is you play them.
Yep. That
Play
seems
Tatum.
good.
For sure, play Tatum. You play Sam Hauser. I think that's the way you go about managing.
A little bit of how's your fall done.
Let's double check. Yeah, no more super chats that came in. Melissa H wants to know that she's getting 98% of Freeman Liberty out of 150 lineups. Is that too much? I have 90.7. I don't think it's problematic to have a lot of Javon Freeman Liberty.
Yeah, I have a metric ton and it's not going to change. So I'm with you.
Play him.
Once more into the breach, my dear friends.
Next question is from Einsteinium. He wants to know, is Miles Bridges a solid option? Are you finding yourself getting to Bridges?
No. I have 2 lineups with Bridges.
So the problem with Bridges today at his price point has less to do with Bridges and more to do with it's such a good slate to be stars and scrubs. There's so much value. There's so many good spend ups. We got Tatum. We've got Jokic. We've got Doncic. So with that in mind, I would rather just pay up to the highest price studs on the slate because it's not all that hard to get to them. So no real massive interest in Bridges for me because of just the way the pricing breaks out on the slate. Strickstein71 wants to know thoughts on Devin Booker. Are you getting to Devin Booker over some of the other studs on the slate or no?
No.
Yeah, same boat for me. They're like pretty similar to all the reasons I just talked about Bridges.
Yeah, it's so hard to get to anything from that basketball team now that they're all there. It's going to take another week till they're playable in any capacity unless you get the textbook nuke of the night that, Devin Booker wants to have. Generally against Dallas, it would appear, but not that I care.
If you guys haven't done it, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, a few minutes from now, the slate is going to start, but the show won't end. We're just going to move it on over to playback. And we're sponsored here by BetMGM. If you guys haven't checked out BetMGM yet, they have a great deal that is going to be going away soon. We don't know the exact date it's going away. We just know soon. And the way you guys take advantage, you sign up at BetMGM with the link that we have below. When you place your first $5 bet at BetMGM after signing with our link, they give you $150 in bonus bets. It is as easy as that. You're going to grow your bankroll in a second by signing up, betting $5 on anything that you guys like for today. We talk about some of our favorite BetMGM bets in the post-lock show, though. If you or anybody has a gambling problem, call or text number 1-800-GAMBLER. Just be sure if you're signing up, use our link. Take advantage of that bonus offer that's going on over at BetMGM. And now we've got one final question that's come into us in the Discord channel before we get to lock, Eric. It is Stokes. Wants to know, is it hardship playing Jokic? Okay, so I guess he's asking, is there a problem with playing Jokic and Luka in the same lineup together? No.
No, I have a lot of it.
I could actually check right now what percentage of my lineups have both.
Yeah, let me filter it.
So
like players.
Maybe a little less. Let's see.
Filter. I want player name. Bueller.
I have a little bit under 10% of my lineups have both Luka and Jokic in them.
I have 14% of the two of them together.
There's enough value on the slate. It is doable. It is doable. It's not a problem. Not a problem. All right, so we're about to get to lock here. Any final thoughts on the slate, Eric, before you vomit on the screen?
No, it was obviously, no excuses, play like a champion. I'm going to go sleep and hope that nothing shows up in terms of late swap here until a little bit later. And then record Lindy's stuff, be ready to rock. And I think that's about it. I do not want to vomit on the screen. I'm going to go.
All right. So we all have different priorities on the slate tonight, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you didn't do it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, head on over to Playback. Myself and Josh Engleman are about to go and break down the slate. We're going to sweat out the games. We'll talk about bets. We'll talk about late swap. That's where we want to be. Over at Playback, there's 10 billion links in YouTube that Jordan Klein just dropped in. So you guys should be able to find it pretty easily. See you guys over in Playback in 1 second.